Hi everyone, today we're going to talk about interviewing. So as you know, your resume is what helped you get the interview, and your interview is what's going to help you land the job. So we'll start by talking about the different types of interviews, then give you a few tips to prepare, and end on how to follow up after the interview. So there are a few different types of interviews out there. Some of these you may or may not have heard of before. For example, case interviews are really common in consulting, but not so much in other industries. Today we're going to focus on behavioral and open-ended interviews because they're the most common. I encourage you to take a look at our advising website for information and resources on the other types of interviews. So as I mentioned, behavioral interviewing is the most common type of interview. This is the kind of interview where someone may ask you questions like, what is your greatest strength? Or tell me about a time when you had to work on a difficult team. Behavioral interviews are very directed. They're looking to see if you have the skills and experiences needed for the job. Therefore, you want to make sure your answers are clear and direct. The best way to do this is by using the STAR technique. This is a structured method for responding to interview questions. Let's walk through using an example. So in case you don't know, STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. The situation is an event, project, or challenge that you faced. Task is your responsibilities and assignments for that situation. The action is the steps or procedure taken to handle the situation. And the most important but often left out part is the results of the action taken. So let's take a look at an example. Tell me about a time when you had a conflict on a team project. How did you handle it? The situation this person provides is my freshman year in Portico, we had a team project evaluating a company's CSR efforts. It culminated in a presentation that included challenge questions from classmates. The task was to choose an organization. We had to pick a public company that was profitable and socially responsible. Our team could not agree on the company. The action was, I proposed we come up with a short list of our top companies. Each member would give a short pitch about why we should choose theirs. Then we would each vote for our second choice, since everyone's first choice would be their own. Then we chose a company with the most votes. And lastly, the result was, some were skeptical at first, but realized it was the only way to come to the decision quickly and get one of our choices, since it was first come, first served to pick the company. No one got their first choice, so there was no winner, but no clear losers either. We really came together after that. So this result is really helpful because it ties the whole story together and shows the action that this person took and that they were enough of a leader to get the ball rolling and also a good team player, which are both skills that are very commonly looked for during an interview. So a few tips as you're coming up with your responses. One is to be prepared. Analyze the job description and have your stories ready, like this person did that we looked at the example. Examples of situations from past jobs, how you successfully handled those situations, and possibly what you learned from the experience are all really helpful. Second is to be positive. Focus on your achievements and successes when possible, and don't trash talk anyone, even when you're describing a time that you failed or have not been perfect, or when you were dealing with someone else's failure. Third is to be brief. Avoid the trap of talking too much. Answer the questions concisely and then ask if your answer provides enough insight. Expand your answer if requested, staying positive. The STAR method is really helpful for that brevity too, because it'll make sure that you don't ramble on too much since you're following that structure. Fourth tip here is to be truthful. Although it's very tempting, don't create fantasy stories. Reality may be discovered during the reference checking part of the hiring process, and it might kill your opportunity. So, tell the truth. Try not to make up anything on the spot. And lastly is to be careful. Never overshare information, and definitely don't talk badly about other people. You never know who's listening, or you don't want to make a bad impression and seem kind of negative. So now that we've talked about how to answer behavioral questions, let's focus on preparation tools. A couple things you can do are to schedule a mock interview with the career team, a peer advisor, or a fellow senior who's in the industry you're interested in. I also highly recommend using Big Interview, which is an online platform provided by BC that you can use to record yourself taking interview questions and get feedback from an AI tool. Also take a look at online resources like Vault and Glassdoor. They provide information about specific companies, and they may even have questions available from interviews that real people had. So highly recommend tools like Glassdoor. And lastly, although it might seem a little weird, try practicing with a friend, someone that's going to give you some honest feedback and let you know how you're doing. More practice is really the key to being prepared for an interview. Also, make sure that you're researching the company and industry ahead of time. As you do your research, you want to focus on your skills and traits. Try to answer these two questions. What does the job demand, and what does the organization value? And second, how does your experience demonstrate the skills and traits that they're looking for? A couple questions that you can try to answer are: what does the organization do? What do they value? Who do they serve? How do they make money? What qualities or skills make people successful here? What are some big trends? And just how does this industry work overall? As you're preparing, also make sure that you have questions to ask at the end of the interview. So a couple questions you can ask might show that you're excited about the specific role. So things like, what are the biggest challenges of this job? Can you give me examples of projects I would be working on? Or what's the most important thing I should accomplish in the first 90 days? You can also show that you're interested in the company in general by asking things like, how would you describe the company's values? What are the company's plans for growth and development? Or maybe even just, what's your favorite part about working here? And lastly, make sure that you let them know you're thinking ahead. You can ask questions like, when can I expect to hear back, or what might next steps be, just to look very forward thinking and eager to join the team. Lastly, make sure that you follow up after the interview. This is something people don't think about sometimes, but you always want to take a little bit of time after the interview, consider where you did well and which questions you had difficulty on, practice the areas you need to improve. Make sure to always send a thank you letter. I say letter, but it should be an email because snail mail might be a bit too slow. Be sure to use the correct name and title of the person who interviewed you. Emphasize your interest in the position and mention any facts that you may have omitted in the interview. If you're sending multiple thank yous, try to switch them up a little bit so that they are more personalized. And third, don't be afraid to follow up. If you don't get a response soon after the date which the interviewer indicated, it's a good idea to email or call the recruiter or interviewer and inquire about the position. And before we sign off, I want you to keep two things in mind. One is that the interviewing process really can be very unfair. It's very subjective. The most qualified candidate is not always the one hired, and small things that happen in an interview can make a difference. So overall, try to spark a positive feeling in the interviewer so it'll help you get the best chances of hearing back from them. And as on a related note, you're going to end up facing rejection during the interview process at some point. And a few tips to deal with that kind of rejection is to prepare for it. Know you're not alone and you have lots more interviews that will always come up. Remember that there's a lot of factors involved with the decision, some of which you can't change. Every experience is going to be a learning experience for the one that matters. And it's okay to be upset, but only give yourself like maybe a day or 2 days to be upset about it and then keep moving forward. And the most important thing is to know that you can get support when needed. You can talk to your Carroll School career advisors, your friends, and other people on campus. So don't get down because there's lots of people here to help you. And on that note, for more tips on interviewing, make sure to visit your Carroll School career advisors and our website, which you'll find below. Thanks for watching and good luck with your interview.